What's up YouTube? Capital G here talking about the OCG Forbidden and Limited list, or as they refer to it as the Limit Regulation. This is their April 1st list, but please refrain from April Fool's jokes because every time people say Kappa G, the April 1st list is it's an April Fool's joke, and believe me, OCG don't care nothing about no April Fools. Now, I have seen this entire list. I have analyzed it, and honestly, it's not my favorite list. But, this is for their format. It is a different format. However, if this did translate to the TCG, I'm not going to lie. I would be pissed because I am expecting a TCG ban list to follow in short order. The January 1st OCG ban list, I believe, dropped about 4 days before we got our list. So I am expecting a ban list this week, whether it be Wednesday, Friday, whatever. I'm expecting a list in the TCG, and usually the OCG ban list will influence ours in at least a small order. So you can kind of look at their list and see a couple of sneak peeks or a couple of hints. Anyways, let's get to it. Let's not dawdle because there are a lot of cards to talk about, and you guys know OCG loves their semi-limited list. They use that damn thing like commas over there. For the Forbidden section, there is nothing. There is not a single card, which kind of surprises me because gun to my head, I honestly would have thought that Kaiser Coliseum would have gotten banned because I don't know if you guys have seen OCG recently, but Kaiser Coliseum is popping up in everything. Like a lot of decks are playing that. We will talk about Kaiser Coliseum, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on there. We have and also OSS. I don't know. I wanted that card banned, but people say it kills the entire deck, or it kills like the engine, but I digress. For limited cards, we have 3 of them. Title, Dragon Ruler. We have There Can Be Only One, and the Wanted poster, Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. So this is one that I said should happen in a TCG when I did my emergency ban list. I had my only fire hits were actually just to the Diabelistar engine. It was Wanted to 1, and it was OSS to 0. And I guess we'll just talk about Wanted to 1. I mean, this card's nuts. It only searches Diabelistar, but that's good enough. The bonus effect of this card almost makes it impossible to what I like to call fully stopped. Yeah, you can Ash Blossom this and your opponent doesn't get the Diabelistar, but there is technically a way that they can still get a draw that turn, or they might have a draw set up for the next turn that just I don't know, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth that I can stop the card and you still end up getting like a +1 out of it just because of the stupid bonus effect in it. Feels a little much like overkill. There Can Be Only One. This is pretty much expected. This card was left at 2 in the OCG when they started cracking down on their floodgates, and I don't know, it was a little strange to me that it didn't go to 1. In the TCG, obviously Konami kind of went harsh against the TC Boo, Gozen Match, and Rivalry, so it's kind of expected. Honestly, I feel like these cards are all going to go at 1, or all going to go to 1 in all 3 sectors: Master Duel, TCG, and OCG, and they're probably going to sit there for a very long time. Title, we just got Redox back. It didn't do anything. I don't think I saw anybody play the card. And honestly, the Dragon Rulers are not just way past their prime. They're just not very strong anymore. If you want to play a deck that can, pump out rank 7 Xyz that plays a bunch of level 7 monsters, you're probably just better off with Kashtira. And the OCG, maybe not Kashtira because they don't have a, Kashtira Fenrir. But in the TCG, yeah, probably just Kashtira, even without a Rise Art. Honestly, I kind of like to see Konami be a little more aggressive with the Dragon Rulers. Like next format or next list, I'd kind of like to see all of them go to 2 and then eventually go to 3, because the only question for me is, if you put them all at 3, are they playable? And I would tend to probably say Kashtira is still just better, right? Because you just have infinitely more consistency in a deck like Kashtira with them having a search card and pressure playing it, and then Prosperity, even though that's at 1 in the OCG. But the Dragon Rulers all at 1, probably not going to do anything. People don't even entertain playing these cards as a one-of in these attribute decks. We're in the Year of Fire. You haven't seen Blaster be played at all. Even at locals, you don't see people playing Blaster. So I think that proves the point. Semi-limited list, which you guys know in the OCG. Oh my, I mean, they have 50 cards on the semi-limited list, so it's a lot. We have SP Little Knight, which was I mean, this is like what made everybody just bust out laughing because Konami, what are you doing? I mean, I feel like you're almost borderline trolling here because tell us that you want to keep selling SP Little Knights without telling us that you want to keep selling SP Little Knights. I know this card isn't expensive in the OCG or, relatively speaking compared to the TCG, but it is still, the most popular card in the extra deck in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'll just ask the question, who was playing 3 copies of this card? Seriously, I have seen decks play 2 copies. I have seen decks make SP turn 1 and then, end on an IP or whatever, and that's cool. Rescue Ace did that, but I don't get who's playing 3 SP unless you're specifically playing Extravagance, and even those decks probably weren't playing 3 SP. We have Ib. Okay, I mean, I used to think that this card was kind of crazy and probably shouldn't come back, but Ib, Dinlong, pretty much same card. They come off the ban list, not really doing too much. People try them in a couple of decks like Sword Soul or, these decks that can synchro summon, but, not much success. We have fire hits, however, I don't really consider them very significant. We have Kieran to 2, which early in the format, a lot of the Fire King Snake Eye players were only playing 2 Kieran, and it's not even that strange to see people just play 2 copies of this card. I mean, it is a card that is highly accessible through Fire King Island. Also, if you're playing just a pure Snake Eye deck, you're playing 0 copies of any of the Fire King cards. So I don't look at this as a very significant hit. Same thing with Snake Eye Ash. There are infinite ways to get to this card. You can OSS it, which is, still at 3 in the OCG. You can search it via Bonfire, which is still at 3 in the OCG. So I don't look at these as like significant hits. Snake Eye Ash is still a 1 card full combo. I was watching Josh Schmidt's video about consistency hits and how he really didn't like them. And this is like the worst way to do consistency hits in my opinion, because I mean, if you're going to do consistency hits, like, why not put these cards at limited status? Like, at least then it's like, all right, the opponent theoretically should never hard open, or they should rarely hard open, Snake Eye Ash. But at 2, they're still going to hard open this card, like a lot. They just do it a little bit less. So not a fan of these 2 hits, and I don't really think they're that significant. But thank goodness, at least we got the 1 hit. But, Diabell Star still is at 3. Whatever. We got some spell cards. Kaiser Coliseum, which I was talking about earlier. Again, I'm surprised that this card was not hit harder. I kind of understand that it's just now, I guess, on the competitive radar. But, man, they're playing this card in, like, a lot of decks. They're playing it in Centurion. They're playing it in Salamangreat. They're playing it in a lot of decks to just limit what the opponent wants, or what the opponent can do going second. You play it in Voiceless. You're ending on just, low plus like a copy of Skull Guardian. So you're basically telling your opponent you're only going to get 2 monsters on the field. If you try to make like an Omni Negate, or you try to make a card that like outs my Kaiser Coliseum, I'll just use my Skull Guardian to negate that, whether it's SP or whatever. You still can't summon very much. So I'm kind of surprised. I thought this card might go to limited status or just straight up banned. Pot of Extravagance. I did have a video planned talking about what they were doing in Master Duel, how they were hitting all the pot cards. Because in Master Duel, like, all the pots, Duality, Prosp, Extravagance, Desires, they're all at 1. And I kind of thought that that was the direction Konami was going for TCG OCG. But then they ended up putting Desires back to 3 in the TCG. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe we're not doing it. But I don't know. Now it kind of looks like they are doing it again. We'll have to wait to see more developments. Continuing on, Unlimited section. This was the shocker that ended up not really being a shocker because it was kind of, again, leaked on the interwebs. I'll talk about this errata in 1 second because I can't read Japanese, but I have it loaded up. We have Girsu, Supreme King, Dark Worm. This card used to be OPOP and Pendulums back in the day. Orcus, not super great. I mean, people were like kind of coping on Orcus at the beginning of the format just because, people hadn't played it in years and they had never played Girsu in the deck, but Orcus is not really that great. We have Rite of Aramasir, Infernity Launcher. Ooh, spicy. This one could be kind of cool, honestly. I wish Konami would give us some of these cards back in the the TCG, but I feel like Konami is like secretly afraid of Infernity because they are not moving those cards back for anything, because Infernity could be nuts in the TCG. And then Change of Heart, which is unlimited. Now the one thing to keep in mind is we have Snatch Steal in the TCG, which also, like, that card didn't do anything. And they do not. So I don't know if we'll see this moving higher, just because we have Snatch Steal and Change of Heart at 1, but they do not have Snatch Steal. Now, let's go ahead and talk about that errata to summon Sorceress. Her summoning conditions are still the same, and she's a hard once per turn. Her effect is a little different because, correct me if I'm wrong, she was Ignition before, and now she's Trigger effect. I believe before you could activate her effect at any time when she was face up. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that she was Ignition. Now she's Trigger. It says if this card is link summoned, you can special summon one monster from your hand in defense position to your opponent's zone that this card points to, but negate its effects. Then you can special summon one monster with the same type as that monster from your deck in defense position. Its effects are negated. And if you do that, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except monsters with the same original type as that monster summoned from the deck. So obviously, there is now a type locking with Summon Sorceress, plus the monster you summon effects are negated. So that is going to limit a lot of what she can do. Obviously, that limits her just going into, you know, stuff like Appaloosa, which would be, well, I mean, I guess if you summon a fairy, you can still go for like Appaloosa. But in decks that are like monotype, you can probably still do some work with her. And I feel like eventually there will be a deck that can like spam. There'll be like an Adamancipator where like the entire deck is rock type and the deck can just summon monsters for days. But if you're playing a deck that's not monotype that can put out a bunch of monsters, Summon Sorceress probably won't be that good in the deck, but I think eventually if you give this chick enough time, she will eventually be good. But yeah, she also, I mean, you're going to be limited as far as like the extra deck monsters that you can make. You're not going to be able to make, you know, Baron plus Appaloosa after summoning her, but I don't know, maybe you made those cards before. Anyways, this is what this is the FNL list that the OCG is working with. And as far as things that I could see for the TCG, you know, I could see Title 100%. I could see Summon Sorceress, although they'll have to reprint it. I could see Wanted happening. I could see the fire hits, but I really hope that they're like a little more harsh, honestly. And then the SP Little Knight hit would just, that would be like a slap in the face. Like, bro, who's playing 3 copies of SP? Anyways, I've rambled for too long. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always.